So I've got the questionnaire here that was sent to Corey's original IME physician. And I remember when you showed me this letter, I didn't think it was real. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought if they send this to that physician, she's going to think she's dealing with a child, or she'll just refuse. Like I can't imagine how I couldn't begin to think how the doctor would see this. But I'll just go through the questions quickly. So they wanted her to answer: has this employee been diagnosed with a medical condition? If yes, what is the nature of the employee's medical condition? Rate the severity of the employee's medical condition: mild, moderate, or severe. This is standard stuff that's done on an IME and would have been done on your initial IME, correct?
Definitely.
Okay. So this is a reiteration of information they already have.
Yep.
Number 4, is there medical evidence to show a clear distinction that a diagnosed medical condition has a causal relationship to each of the following behaviors? So they want to know if your condition of having a substance use disorder is responsible for these following behaviors. That's how I take that.
Correct. Bearing in mind, folks, I had the independent medical exam that provided that diagnosis months before.
Right.
Go on.
So could it be that falsifying doctors' verbal orders for narcotics on patient charts, falsifying patient records and charts and medication administration records with orders for narcotics, please explain, falsifying patient records, charts, and the medication administration record by charting narcotics as administered where narcotics were already charted as administered by another registered nurse, please explain. So they're wanting the doctor to give them kind of a medical backing, a scientific, something that's backed by scientific evidence that these behaviors are part of your disability. Lying to his coworkers regarding the dosing of patients, not wasting narcotics per the employer's controlled substance policy, taking narcotics from the employer medication system, the PICSIS, under patient names where narcotics have already been withdrawn by another nurse, and under patients' names where verbal orders for narcotics were falsified. Please explain. I mean, these are all, you're not going to see a nurse with a hydromorph problem. I mean, you have to get it somehow, right?
Right.
And most of the time, this is falsifying records or not fully used vials. I mean, these are common methods. What's not common is taking medication that's supposed to be for a patient. You don't usually. Right. I haven't ever seen it, actually.
And I'll just interject that that these are also very common issues with people's nursing practice who do not have an addiction.
That's right.
Improperly wasting medication. That if you polled nurses about how often they forgot to waste a medication, you find that the vast majority would say that at some point or another they forgot. In an emergency department, taking verbal orders from a doctor on the fly. Hey, so and so in bed 2 is having pain. Can I go give him something? Yeah, give him this. You'll also find that is a very common thread. So these are flaws within nursing practice that are common within the emergency setting that are not exclusive to someone with addiction.
Yes. Yet, if you ask the health authority what the situation is with these, kind of holes in the system, they will tell you consistently that they've been repaired, that there's no way that these things are happening.
Correct.
All these issues have been dealt with. It's not possible to get narcotics out of there. That's their stand. So continuing on, consuming narcotics while on shift, please explain. Stating in the previous meeting held that he could not recall specific incidents that were presented to him by the employer at the time and that he did not want to incriminate himself. Please explain. I mean,
they're wanting a doctor to explain why I said I didn't recall.
How on earth would a physician even begin to be able to sign it off on something like that?
No physician would do that.
Right. Stated he had a mental health injury and opioid use was associated with that injury. I don't even understand how is that a symptom of a disability? I mean,
right.
The guy, what do you think? The guy, are they suggesting that you had another mental illness, like maybe schizophrenia or?
Yeah, good question. And that question will come back up for me, and when I tell about that IME specifically. So
okay, and then the last one is based on your assessment. Did Corey have the cognitive ability to determine and understand between right and wrong when deciding to engage in the above behaviors? If yes, which behaviors? And they want them specified from the previous list as to which behaviors you had the cognitive ability to understand whether they were right or wrong. Now, this is either incredibly ignorant or just I don't understand what they want, what they were hoping to get out of this, I guess, is the hardest thing to grasp.
It leaves me with either thinking there's a fundamental lack of understanding of addiction, or that they were trying to prove that there was no addiction.
Right. They were suspicious because you were not just you were okay at work, you were actually excelling. You're working extra shifts, people are sending you thank you cards, all this kind of stuff. And they're so baffled by this that they're starting to doubt maybe the diagnosis.
I think so.
Right.
I think so. And again, there was no transparency there, but that's the best I can kind of come up with. So, yeah.
And what possible motivation would somebody have to pretend to have an opioid disorder?
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, again, that's why that led me to think that they were suggesting that I was up to something else. But again, going back now 10 months prior, I had seen this doctor who I had very truthfully explained my addiction to, who confirmed that I had an opioid use disorder and signed off on that. And that was what put me through a treatment program. That was what sent me to your group and put me on that path.
Did they do any testing at your first IME? Did they do a hair test, anything that would indicate that you still had hydromorphone in your system?
Only a blood and urine.
Okay, but they showed up in a blood and urine?
No.
Oh, okay.
But that was because I had it was 6 or 7 weeks before, from the time I went off work, from the time I last used hydromorphone to the IME. So it did clear my system.
Yeah, I just that would have been an easy one to, it's right here, guys. But anyway, okay.
So the interesting thing was that when the thing that we mentioned in our first episode on me, haven't mentioned yet in this episode, was that simultaneously as that first IME was happening, I was also seen by a psychologist that was that was provided to me through WorkSafe, who provided the psychological diagnoses of an adjustment disorder, which is in the family of PTSD. Okay. And then an opioid use disorder as a means of coping with the adjustment disorder.
Okay.
So depression, stress, and anxiety, which was the manifestation of the adjustment disorder, and the opioid use disorder, which was then the further manifestation of that. This was written by the psychologist.
This is a psychologist that WorkSafe employed?
Correct.
Okay.
So this was, and again, a rational person would think that those documents, the IME and the document from WorkSafe, that those would be sort of passed between these different bodies, or at least between the different doctors. So when I went back for that third IME with that humiliating, demeaning questionnaire, I had said, well, I also have a document from WorkSafe from this psychologist that confirms that I had this psychological diagnosis and that he felt that my opioid use disorder was a means of coping with depression and anxiety at work. I've never seen such a document. I don't have that document. That document was never provided to me. This says the doctor. And I believe that to be true, that she was never provided with that. But shouldn't, in the interest of collecting the full story, shouldn't that psychological assessment have been provided?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's common, unfortunately, right now in our medical system across the board. I mean, there's very little communication. There's, the silo effect where I see it often as a pharmacist, but I mean, probably if we could get, if we can improve that one sector, just make those communications happen a little bit better, we would save, who knows, 5% on our total budget.
Yeah. So this document, this report from the psychologist was sort of the link between the psychological injury, the wound, and the coping strategy, the behavior. And they didn't have it. Now, I knew that they weren't, or had a hunch at least that they weren't going to have it. So I had a copy of it on my phone and was told that I could not provide that myself. That would have had to come from the employer, and the employer wasn't going to provide that to her.
Did they give you a reason why?
Well, you, as a patient in an independent medical examination, you're not allowed to provide the documents yourself. They would have to, because I guess in theory they would say that I could have tampered with that or could have done it myself. So they said it would have had to have come from someone else.
Okay. The idea being that as an independent assessment, they don't want anything else from the outside influencing the results.
Correct. Okay. Yet here is this demeaning questionnaire sitting on the desk between us.
It's about as those questions are about as pointed as you can get.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all, but we'll we'll continue because
So we got through the independent medical examination and I, because at this point I felt further that I had little to lose, I questioned the doctor on this questionnaire and said, I find this the right or wrong question. Did Corey know right or wrong? I find that to be insulting. And the doctor said, yeah, of course you do. How could you not find that to be insulting? And that kind of validated that.
The doctor, what was the doctor's reaction when she received that questionnaire?
She was quite guarded with me about that, but okay. had said that she thought it was unusual and that the question of right or wrong, again, she, from what I could kind of get from her, she expressed that was a reflective of a lack of understanding.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is par for the course. I mean, yeah, you
yes.
would, if you knew anything about this condition, and you read a letter like that, I would love to know the initial impression and what she was thinking, but we can only imagine, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I got through that independent medical examination. But by the way, I mean, that was 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And because she said, I won't complete this single document without kind of doing my full assessment to give. And I think she was doing that to try to give me a bit of the benefit that it would be unfair to complete this questionnaire without having a conversation with me.
Well, it's also kind of they're on the one hand saying that they don't believe her original statement, like they're calling into question the authenticity of the original documents.
Yeah.
And then trying to shorten her process that she gets paid, whatever it is, $1,500, I think, for the 3 hour one.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a healthcare professional, you know that's not a precedent that you want to set. All of a sudden, you're getting all these people showing up with a little checkbox. Yeah, is my employee? Does my employee know right from wrong? You know, like this is. It's not the way it's done, and I'm sure that she wanted to collect her full fee there. And why would she? I mean, ultimately, she's there to provide a service, right? And
yeah.
If she uses her time wisely, she's got a better chance of uncovering more information that could be pertinent to your condition.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.